Welcome to the MAE Student Design Center training series. The purpose of this video is to demonstrate the safe and proper operation of a vertical bandsaw, a tool useful for producing a straight cut or a large radius cut in a workpiece. The policy in this facility is to use gloves anytime you're working with sharp raw materials. However, when working with powered equipment, such as the vertical bandsaw, you need to deburr your workpiece and then remove gloves prior to machine operation. When using the vertical bandsaws, you must ensure that you are cutting a permissible material. Permissible materials are wood, aluminum, plastics, and thin ferrous materials. A ferrous material is a material which contains iron. Steel is an example of this. When you're cutting a ferrous material, you need to make sure that the material has not been hardened. You can check if a material has been hardened by performing the file test. To ensure maximum stiffness while cutting, you need to adjust the blade guide to within 1/4 inch of the top of your part. First, make sure you hold the blade guide so that it does not drop, and then release the handle and tighten the handle back down. Now let's discuss some hand and blade safety. First, and most importantly, make sure that you keep your hands out of the vertical plane of the blade whenever you're cutting, so that your hand does not accidentally slip into the blade. Whenever you're cutting a small workpiece, find a small wooden push block, we have some in the facility, that you use to keep your hands further away from the blade. Finally, any chattering, squealing, or vibration is a sign that you're putting too much force on the blade while you're pushing the workpiece. When you're ready to make your cut, you can turn the machine on by using the power controls on the front side of the machine. You can turn the machine off by pressing the red off button on the same control panel. Begin your cut by placing your workpiece flat on the table and pushing gently into the blade. You can produce a large radius cut, one larger than 6 inches or so, by producing a slight rotation in your workpiece as you push. When you're done machining, you need to clean the machine. The goal of cleanup is to leave the machine cleaner than when you found it. Begin cleanup by using the brush under the table to wipe off any dust and debris on top of the table. Then, retrieve one of the large push brooms and sweep the area around the machine. Finally, you can collect the remaining pile on the floor with the brush and dustpan. Now, let's discuss the signs posted above each bandsaw to highlight the differences between them. To ensure proper operation, these charts should be referenced each time one of the bandsaws is used. Let's begin with the MSC bandsaw. The upper left demonstrates proper blade guide height. As discussed earlier, it is important to ensure the blade guide is adjusted to within 1/4 inch of your part. This is done to maximize blade stiffness and prevent unnecessary chatter or wandering by the blade. To the right of this section is the blade speed chart. The MSC bandsaw is capable of variable speeds. It is important to note the proper speed for each material. As we can see, the harder the material, the slower the blade speed. To adjust the speed, turn on the machine and count the number of handle revolutions from the slowest speed as shown in the chart. To cut mild steel, rotate the handle counterclockwise until it cannot rotate further. For softer materials, count the number of revolutions in the clockwise direction from this point until you reach the number of revolutions indicated on the chart for that type of material. Because there is no speed indicator on the machine, always bring the machine down to the slowest speed before adjustment to ensure the proper speed is reached. Always have a safety steward with you when changing the speed or have them change it for you. The next section contains the blade tooth pitch chart. Blades should only be changed by safety stewards, but it is important to understand which blade pitch is needed for your workpiece. Whenever cutting, the blade must have an appropriate number of teeth engaged in the material at any time. Having too few teeth engaged tends to break teeth and ruin the blade. The thicker the material that you cut, the coarser the blade pitch can be. Materials greater than 1/2 inch can be cut using a blade with 6 to 10 teeth per inch. Materials between 1/4 and 1/2 inch can be cut using a blade with 8 to 12 teeth per inch. Materials between 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch, or sheet metal, can be cut using a blade with 10 to 14 teeth per inch. When you approach the machine, the yellow tag on the machine indicates the currently installed blade. Compare the pitch of that blade with the one you need. If it is not the same, ask a safety steward to change the blade before using the bandsaw. The final section, in the bottom right corner, explains proper tagging procedures. As explained before, there should always be a tag indicating the currently installed bandsaw blade. Safety stewards are expected to follow these procedures when they change blades, but all facility users must be aware of this procedure in order to ensure execution. Whenever a blade is changed, the tag indicating its tooth pitch should be attached to it, and the tag from the newly installed blade should be hung on the machine to notify the users of the active blade pitch. This is incredibly important to make sure that blades are not mixed up and improper pitches are used during cutting. Cutting material with an improper blade will result in drastically longer cutting times or broken blades. The next bandsaw we will discuss is the Delta bandsaw. It is very similar in operation to the MSC, except that it does not have variable speed. Because of this, the Delta bandsaw is for cutting plastics and wood only. All of the other poster information is identical to the information on the MSC bandsaw and therefore has been discussed already. With this in mind, you can now safely operate and use the vertical bandsaws in the Student Design Center. Thank you for watching. This has been the MAE Student Design Center Training Series Vertical Bandsaw video.
The first step is to shut off power to the machine and unplug it from the wall. Next, remove the 2 screws attaching the blade guard to the upper blade guide arm. You may find it helpful to remove your gloves during this step to ease fastener removal. The third step is to open the upper and lower blade wheel doors. Next, release the blade tension by rotating the hand wheel counterclockwise approximately 2 rotations. The final step in the bandsaw blade removal sequence is to carefully remove the blade from the drive wheels and the blade guides found on each side of the bandsaw table. As seen in the video, it's very important to wear your gloves during this step to protect your hands. Be gentle when removing the blade from the bandsaw so as to not damage any of its fragile teeth. And that concludes the bandsaw blade removal portion of this video. The bandsaw blade installation procedure is essentially the reverse sequence we just outlined during the removal phase of the video. The first step for blade installation is to carefully install the blade on the drive wheels and blade guides. A second set of hands greatly facilitates this step, so feel free to ask somebody to assist. However, please make sure that they too are wearing gloves. When performing this step, ensure the bandsaw blade teeth are facing outward, away from the drive wheels, and that the teeth are facing downward towards the bandsaw table. The final check is to ensure the bandsaw blade is installed properly between the 2 blade guides and that the back side of the blade is pushed firmly up against the flange of the 2 drive wheels. The second step of blade installation is to tension the bandsaw blade using the hand wheel at the top of the bandsaw. Rotate this hand wheel in the clockwise direction until you feel suitable tension in the blade. Suitable tension means the blade will be able to deflect left or right approximately 1/4 of an inch under 20 pounds of force from your hand. At this point, you may close the upper and lower blade wheel doors. The fourth step is to reinstall the blade guard, and as shown earlier, it might be easier to do so by removing your gloves. And the final step is to plug the machine back into the wall outlet.